Cape Fear River, Wilmington, North Carolina. Been here longer than that ship has. Longer than most things, honestly. I'm not going to show myself. You won't see me in this whole video. That's rather the point of being an alligator who survived this long. You don't get old by being visible, but I've watched this battleship sit here since 1961. Watched thousands of you climb aboard, snap photos, read plaques, wonder what it was like. I've heard enough tour guides through the decades that I could probably narrate this myself. Apparently today, that's exactly what's happening. Let's take a look at the USS North Carolina. From the water, where I actually live. Look at her. 728 feet of steel, sitting in the water like she's still waiting for orders that will never come again. She's been decommissioned since 1947. Sat here as a museum ship since 1961 after the state of North Carolina raised money, largely from school children donating dimes if you want a detail that'll make you feel something, to bring her home instead of letting her go to the scrapyard. I've seen this river change, watched the current shift with tides, watched storms roll through, watched this ship weather all of it without moving an inch. She's not going anywhere. Neither am I, really. From here, from the water level, she looks less like a museum and more like what she actually was, a machine built for one purpose. War, 9 16-inch guns, 25-inch guns, enough firepower to level a city. Once upon a time. But peaceful now, quiet. Tourists instead of sailors, cameras instead of ammunition. Funny how things settle down given enough decades. Oh, there it is, the sign. I appreciate the acknowledgement, honestly. Most historical tours don't bother mentioning the actual wildlife that predates the exhibit by several million years, evolutionarily speaking. Alligators have been doing this, existing mostly unbothered in rivers like this one, since before there were battleships, before there were humans technically. The sign's not wrong to be cautious. I'm not going to bite anyone today, but I've been known to surface near the dock occasionally, just to remind everyone whose river this actually is. Consider this your only warning. Now let's board the ship. I'll stay down here. Obviously, you're on deck now. I can feel the vibration of footsteps through the water, through the hull, even from here. That bell you're looking at dated 1908, that's actually older than the ship itself. The USS North Carolina wasn't commissioned until 1941. That bell came from an earlier vessel also named North Carolina, an armored cruiser that served decades before this battleship even existed. Ships inherit things sometimes. Names, bells, traditions passed down like family heirlooms. That bell rang for sailors on a different ship entirely in a different era of naval warfare and somehow ended up here. Little known fact. Ships' bells were traditionally used to mark time in half-hour increments during a sailor's watch. 8 bells meant the watch was over. Sailors lived their entire days according to that rhythm. Bells instead of clocks, tradition instead of technology. I mark time differently. Sun position, water temperature, the rhythm of tides. But I respect a good bell system when I see one. There's a plane up there too, a Kingfisher likely, the scout plane these battleships carried for reconnaissance and rescue operations. Launched by catapult, if I remember correctly, from decades of half-listened tour guide commentary. That's remarkable, actually. A battleship carrying its own aircraft, launching planes from a moving vessel using compressed air catapults, then recovering them by crane after they'd landed in the water nearby. I've seen planes land on this river before in my younger days, watching from beneath the surface. Never quite that gracefully, though. Different era of aviation. And those turret guns, the big ones, the 16-inch guns capable of firing shells weighing over 2,700 pounds each, distances up to 23 miles. This ship never fired those guns in anger against another vessel. Interestingly enough, spent most of her combat time providing anti-aircraft support and shore bombardment during World War II Pacific campaigns. 9 battle stars this ship earned, more than any other American battleship in World War II. All that firepower, mostly used defensively, protecting aircraft carriers from Japanese attacks. Sometimes the most powerful weapons exist mainly to prevent needing to use them. Deterrence, I believe you humans call it. Now you're heading down into the engine room. Different world down there. Hot, mechanical, the actual guts of how this massive vessel moved through water. Those pipe markings you're seeing, color-coded system, different colors indicating different functions. Red for fire systems, yellow for fuel, blue for water, green for something else. I forget exactly, but the point is organized chaos. Miles of piping throughout this ship, each one labeled precisely so sailors could identify systems quickly, especially during emergencies. Imagine maintaining that. Miles of pipes, dozens of systems, all needing constant attention from engineers who worked in conditions I can only imagine. Heat, noise, the constant vibration of massive engines pushing this ship through water at speeds up to 28 knots. I moved through water without any of that mechanical complexity, just muscle, instinct, evolution refined over millions of years. But I respect the engineering here, the human ingenuity required to build something this massive, this powerful, and somehow make it move purposefully through the same water I navigate effortlessly. Different approaches to the same fundamental challenge, moving through water with purpose. There's a projectile on display. One of those massive shells the 16-inch guns could fire. Just look at the size of it. Taller than most humans standing next to it for scale. That's what those turret guns launched. Not bullets, not simple ammunition, but shells the size of small vehicles, packed with explosive force capable of devastating targets over 20 miles away. Hard to reconcile that kind of destructive capability with how peaceful this ship feels now. Tourist families walking past, children probably asking if they can touch it. Everyone slightly disconnected from what this object actually represented when it was operational. War reduces to artifacts eventually. Massive shells become museum displays. Battleships become tourist attractions. The actual violence, the actual stakes, they fade into historical context, replaced by curiosity and education instead of fear. Maybe that's necessary. Maybe you can't maintain that level of visceral understanding forever. But standing here, watching this projectile draw casual tourist attention, it's strange the distance time creates. And here, different energy entirely. The memorial area, the wreath, this is where the ship stops being purely mechanical fascination and becomes something else, something heavier. This vessel represents real sailors, real lives. 10 crew members died during her service. And this memorial honors that sacrifice, along with the broader sacrifice of everyone who served aboard her during World War II. This ship saw combat, real combat, not just impressive statistics about gun range and battle stars, but actual danger, actual casualties, actual young men who never made it home. The wreath remembers that, even when the rest of the tour focuses on engineering marvels and impressive firepower, and here, where they actually lived, slept, existed day after day for months at a time during deployment. Those cots, stacked, minimal, barely enough space for a single sailor's basic needs. This wasn't luxury accommodation. This was function over comfort, efficiency over spaciousness, because every square foot mattered when housing a crew of nearly 2,300 men. Imagine that. Nearly 2,300 people living aboard this vessel simultaneously, sleeping in these cramped quarters, eating in shifts, working demanding schedules, all while potentially facing combat situations with minimal warning. The magnetic compass and what I believe is the engine telegraph room, where commands got transmitted between the bridge and the engine room below. That compass fascinates me, honestly. All this advanced 1940s technology, radar, sophisticated fire control systems, complex engineering throughout the ship, and they still relied on a magnetic compass for fundamental navigation. Ancient technology, essentially dating back centuries, still proving essential even aboard the most advanced warships of the era. The engine telegraph system is remarkable too. Before modern communication technology, this was how bridge officers communicated speed and direction commands to engine room crews, mechanical dials, indicators, physical levers translating intention into action across different sections of this massive ship. All ahead full, reverse engines. Commands transmitted through mechanical telegraph systems, requiring engine room crews to respond immediately, adjusting massive machinery based on signals from officers they couldn't even see or hear directly. I navigate using senses embedded in my biology, pressure changes, chemical signals, magnetic field detection that helps with orientation. Different system entirely, but perhaps not as different as it initially seems. Both approaches, ultimately, are about translating information into purposeful movement through water. This is likely where the actual steering happened too. Coordination between multiple stations, multiple crew members, all working together to guide this massive vessel safely through open ocean and dangerous combat situations alike. Back on deck now, and there, the anchor. Absolutely massive, as you'd expect from a vessel this size. I've watched that anchor drop into this river more times than I can count. Decades ago, when this ship still occasionally repositioned, or when maintenance required specific mooring arrangements. Now it sits, mostly decorative, though I imagine still functional if ever needed. Anchors fascinate me, actually. Simple concept, really. Weight sufficient to grip sea floor, preventing a massive vessel from drifting with current or wind. But the scale required for something this size, that anchor probably weighs as much as several dozen alligators combined. I don't need anchoring. I simply exist within water's natural rhythm, moving with currents when I choose to, remaining stationary through muscle control when I prefer stillness. But I respect the engineering requirement here. Controlling something this massive, this heavy, requires solutions scaled appropriately to the challenge. This anchor held steady through storms, through combat maneuvers, through decades of peaceful museum existence. Reliable, unglamorous, essential. And look at that. Visitors posing with the guns, pretending to aim them, taking photos as if they're commanding this massive weaponry themselves. Understandable impulse, honestly. These guns represent such significant power, such historical weight, that touching them, photographing yourself alongside them, creates some illusion of connection to that history. Temporary pretend command over machinery that once required extensive training, coordination, and genuine danger to operate. Children especially seem drawn to this, climbing slightly, posing with excited expressions, imagining themselves as sailors commanding these weapons during dramatic naval combat. I understand the appeal even from my perspective. History becomes tangible through physical interaction. The USS North Carolina, comprehensively explored. I'll stay here, obviously, in this river, watching this ship continue its peaceful museum existence, watching thousands more visitors climb aboard, take photographs, read plaques, try to understand what military service actually meant for the sailors who lived here. This ship represents something significant, not just impressive engineering or notable World War II service, but the actual experience of thousands of young men who spent months, sometimes years, living within these steel walls. Memory requires maintenance. This ship, preserved carefully, maintained meticulously, exists specifically to ensure that memory doesn't fade entirely, to ensure future generations understand, at least partially, what previous generations sacrificed. I understand endurance. I understand the value of remaining steady, remaining present, bearing witness across decades. This ship and I, we've got that in common at least. Both still here, both still watching this river flow past, unchanged in our fundamental purpose, despite everything shifting around us. Thank you for touring the USS North Carolina with me. I'll be here, beneath the surface, continuing my own decades-long watch. Same time next visit.